How are you guys doing? Yeah, I was thinking of reading some stories of Finn MacCool, who I have read a lot of stories about Finn MacCool, but not nearly as much as, like, my main interest historically has been the Ulster cycle and also the cycle of invasions, and we've read stories from each of those. So I've read from this book before. This is my absolute favorite book in terms of Irish mythology, over 9 waves. Like I said, I've got several, both of Irish mythology and Irish folk tales, which are very different, right? Irish folk tales are going to be more modern. They're going to be very folksy. Often they're going to deal with, like, the fae being, like, mischievous or interfering with life or, you know, something, but, like, in a more modern way. Whereas mythology is more about, like, the invasions and settlings of Ireland over the years. This is mainly this is pre-Christian, right? This is mythology. It's prehistory. There may be grains of truth in terms of, you know, like the Gaelic people did sail over to Ireland. Like, that did happen, you know, but in the stories they get there, and the Tuatha Dé Danann are there, the Fomorians and the Fir Bolgs are there, that there may have been people there when they sailed over, but yeah. So, are we talking about the Normans? No, that is solidly history. This is pre-history. This is mythology. And likely almost entirely fictional. There may be, again, grains of truth that over the years of being in a culture that really valued and fostered oral storytelling, they would have been, you know, maybe these grains became these stories that got passed down. So this is not to be looked at as history at all. The gods are giants who eat you alive. I mean, not always. They can take different forms, you know, like a lot of times they'll be like the same size as a person, or, you know, you've got like the Morrigan who will turn into a raven, and bring all the ravens to the battlefield. So yeah, have we done like 3? I know we've definitely done 2. We may have done 3 different sessions of Irish mythology before. You like the ones about the fae folk? I mean, a lot of them involve the fae folk. Yeah, in the past we have, so oh gosh, we've just stumbled on one of my favorite, you know, well, not stumbled, that's the whole stream's about Irish mythology, but it is one of my favorite things to talk about. But the fae folk basically originally were the Tuatha Dé Danann, who were kind of a race of demigods who inhabited Ireland before the Milesians, the sons of Mel, came over to Ireland. And they, even though they had magic, they could not win because the Milesians had steel weapons and they couldn't fight against that. Oh my god, Black Dragon Tavern Gaming, welcome in. Thank you so much for the raid. Hello, you guys. Hello, welcome in for some Irish mythology. We are getting an early start on St. Patrick's Day, which is technically tomorrow, but we've got other plans for tomorrow. So we're doing our Myth Monday on Irish mythology, which is my favorite. The thing that got me into mythology in the first place. Kicked the snot out of them, and MacLear negotiated to send the Tuatha beneath the mounds and away from mortals. Yes, and they became the Dunashi, the good folk, the fairies. And so in past Mythology Mondays, we have read from the cycle of invasions about the Tuatha dealing with the Fomorians and the Firbolgs, and then the coming of the Milesians. We've also read stories from the Ulster cycle, which is a big passion of mine. Read some stories about Cumhaill. We haven't yet read Deirdre of the Sorrows, though, and that was like the story that was the first Irish myth that I read. When we say Gaels, are we talking about Gauls? No, it's like Gaelic. You have superstitions about the Fae folk, but that's just being bonkers or sensible. Like, why risk it? Like, why not err on the safe side? I think that's totally reasonable. Yes, if you want to cheers in Irish, you can say sláinte, which means health. So that's mainly, and we have not exhaustively covered those cycles of mythology, but we have touched from the cycle of invasions and the Ulster cycle. We also read one story from near the end of the Finn cycle, but it had to do with his son Oisin, who married a Fae woman, the daughter of Manannán mac Lir, who is the Irish god of the ocean. I used to say the Irish Poseidon, but we just read the Odyssey, and Poseidon is the biggest dick, man. He's such an asshole, and I feel like Manannán mac Lir is not as much of an asshole as that. Like Poseidon is like crazy mean. So, anyways, yeah, we read the story about Oisin, who goes to live there, and he feels like he's only gone for like a few months or whatever, and he's like, I miss my friends, and he goes back, and it's been hundreds of years, and of course his wife has warned him, don't set foot on the soil, don't get off my father's horse. And there's a version where someone needs help, and so he does get off, and there's a version where like the saddle breaks and he falls off and he instantly hits the ground and ages and turns into a pile of dust, or in some versions turns into an old man just long enough to be baptized, and then he turns into a pile of dust. You know, you got to throw that baptism in there. But one of my favorite details from that story is that it's been hundreds of years, and he's like, why are all the people so small? You know, and like the Irish aren't known as being like a particularly short, like they're average height, but these heroes in mythology were so tall. Like apparently, like as it goes in the stories, men were bigger then, they were taller. So anyways, MacLear is incredibly kind and magnanimous, not near the bastard. Yeah, but that's what I used to say to just like, you know, because everyone's heard of Poseidon, no one's heard of Manannán, and so I'm like, oh yeah, the Irish Poseidon. Nope, not at all. Anyway, so I was thinking we could maybe read some early tales of Finn MacCool. I think we did read, okay, so from the Ulster cycle, I know we read about the curse of Macha, right, where she's forced to raise, and then we did read about the Toimbo Coolinga, I believe, right? I know I've talked about it. I think we read the Toimbo Coolinga, or maybe not the whole thing, but we read part of it. Did we read the fight at the ford with Ferdia, I think. Yeah, I'm almost definitely sure that we did. But, oh, and we read about Brickrew's Feast, where all the warriors are like, I'm the best, and they're just ridiculous happenings. There's still a lot that we could read from that cycle. Hi, Uberku. Including Deirdre, but and also the death of Cumhaill. But I just think, yeah, why don't we read about Finn MacCool? What am I not noticing? What am I not noticing, Fidge? What are you doing? The Irish and Gauls are far tall. Yeah, but the idea being that like the heroes from mythology were like 7 feet tall, you know? Like they were just this concept, like, oh well, men were bigger back then, in like an unreasonable way. Like they were, because they're so large in story that they're also large, and it's not supposed to be like a realistic height. Like it's not actually true. I just think it's nice. You speak French? Je parle un peu français. J'oublie la plupart, mais un peu. I mean, the first story is called The Boyhood Deeds of Finn. I don't know. I was going to say we don't need to know about his boyhood, but actually, nah, the Salmon of Wisdom is part of this story. This is all pre-Fina, though. Basically, unlike Cumhaill, who is literally a demigod, Finn MacCool is a man, but he manages to put together this kind of military group, the Fina, but that are very, like, they're very based in, like, honor. Yeah. He's like a warrior and a commander. They're a brotherhood. Yeah, but like they are like an army. But it's just he kind of like, instead of just being like I don't know, he like elevated it into a new order. But I think we should start with the boyhood cycles. Sorry. The big boy monthlies. We'll start with the boyhood deeds of Finn, because this story includes the Salmon of Wisdom, which is an iconic image from Irish mythology. So, Conabha MacNessa, Cumhaill uncle, was semi-historical and said to be a man of nearly 8 feet tall. Is he actually like in story? Is he said to be 8 feet tall, or like that's so interesting. And this is what I was saying about like, there are these like grains of truth in this. Most of this should be taken as absolute like fiction, it's mythology, but there are like grains of truth in it, right? We do know that Ireland was divided into what are now the provinces of Ireland, were separate kingdoms. They each had a king, and then there was the High King of Ireland, and Connor is the kind of the big High King character in the Ulster cycle. And yeah, Cumhaill, who as a boy was named Shaitanta, his mother was Connor's sister, and so she fostered him out. Fostering children was like a huge deal, so she fostered him out to Connor, and he grew up at the palace, at the seat of the High King. Tara. Now, interestingly, and I'm not an expert on Fomorians, but certainly the way they're represented in this book, they're not seen as being like fae necessarily. They definitely wield magic, and they have druids practicing. And of course you have like Balor, but Balor got his evil eye because he walked into a cloud of smoke from some druids brewing something up. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Are they classified as fae? MacNessa is semi-historical, legendary, and these are from various old accounts of him. Very, very cool. You just read about Balor today? Wait, were you not there when I read that story, Shay? He could kill whole armies with a glance of his evil eye. Oh, okay, Tua and Fomorian, right. Yeah, it's really interesting how far back it goes, really, like, and that, because you have stories of the coming of the Tua de Danann to Ireland, right? And the Fomorians and the Firbolgs were there. And I mean, the Firbolgs are treated as like a slave class by the Tua de Danann and Fomorians, who also kind of take slaves from each other. And there's no like, just like good people, you know, they're all complicated and yeah. Are the Tua, the Seelie and the Fomor? So the Seelie and Unseelie courts, when talking about the Fae, I believe are mainly used in Welsh mythology. Is that correct? I believe Seelie and Unseelie court is more talking coming from Welsh mythology. It's not. I don't think it's a term I've come across in specifically Irish legend. Yeah. And those are terms that also have been, I think, oversimplified to their detriment, that people kind of use them as like the Seelie court are the good fairies and the Unseelie court are the bad fairies. And it's not quite that simple. Hi, Red Boy. They're from Scotland and Wales and come primarily from later playwrights and fiction. Okay, interesting. I'm not as well read with Welsh and Scottish mythology. I would love for us to read the Mabinogion at some point, but which is Welsh. But yeah, it's that's kind of an oversimplified version of it. Yeah. So in Ireland, the fairies, so the original people that came over, and actually recently I was talking about those 4 gifts. Do you remember? It was when we were reading Arthurian legend, and we were talking about this concept of like a magical sword, and like that the Tua de Danann brought with them 4 magical objects. The sword of Nuaha, the spear of Lu, am I getting those mixed up? The cauldron of the Dagda, and the Liafal, which is the stone that cries out when a true king steps upon it, right? So they all came from different countries, and they're all their name means people of the goddess Danu, which is very interesting. It brings up like obviously there's like possibly connections there with like the Danube River area. I'm not 100% sure there. Anyways, so the Tua de Danann basically means people of the goddess Danu. You'll also see them called the Dunashi, which basically means the fairy people. But the word she, Sidhe, oh my god, Shay, all I want in my life is for a recreation of the Gundestrup cauldron. I want that. And I've googled, I just want a fucking cauldron that is can I not get, I've seen it in person. I have seen it in person. Sorry, distraction. The Dunashi. So the word she, which in a simplified way gets translated just as fairy, but it's originally was used to mean the mounds, the fairy mounds, right? Thank you, Sean. So they became like the people of the mounds, because they went under the earth, basically, in a way becoming kind of part of the earth, if you're looking at it kind of poetically, which a lot of Irish myth and legend is quite poetic. Yeah, the lovely lady lumps, exactly. And so the word she just became associated with the Fae themselves, right? Yeah, okay, yes, I am blathering excitedly because I fucking love this stuff. It's more of a monologue or I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. God damn it, I'm not sorry. She means abode or home in Old Irish, and right, that's the oh, means goodwill. Wait. But you know, like, there's like the Kutshi, like the fairy cat, and it's the SITH spelling. That's interesting. I didn't know that translated as goodwill. That is so interesting. Never heard your name before, but I've already forgot. I've mentioned it like maybe twice on stream in the past. It's not. Yeah. You're gonna do some laundry and listen. Sounds good. Sounds good. Stitch. No, this is not a Poison Ivy cosplay. I'm just wearing green. Anyways, I figured we would start with a story about young Finn MacCool before he has started the Fina. By the way, I know I talk a lot about this, but please, as some of you have been doing, I just want to say I definitely encourage, like, if you're like, I know more about this, or Fal is wrong about this, please feel free to share your knowledge in chat. I mean, that always goes. I love learning things here. I love having conversations here. Yeah. Amp up the Irish, heck yeah. Oh, that would be very cool, Castle. Thank you. Young MacCool would make a good movie. All right. Should we get into a story? Adventure Time is an adaptation of the Boyhood Deeds of Finn MacCool. Well, I guess if you want, as I read the Boyhood Deeds of Finn, you can imagine Finn the human. Okay. The Boyhood Deeds of Finn. When Conn of the 100 Battles was King of Ireland, he had at his command an army of fighters and hunters called the Fina. Okay, I'm going to be looking up pronunciations as well. Which luckily they have in here. Right, okay. An army of fighters and hunters called the Fina, whose leader was Cumhaill, son of Trenmore. The king's chief druid at the time was called Nuaha, and this man built for himself a beautiful white-fronted fort in Leinster. The druid's wife, Almu, asked that the fort be named after her, and so Almu it was called. When Nuaha died, his son, Tig, became a druid in his place and lived on the Hill of Allen in the fort that his father had built. Now, Tig had a daughter. Pixel, welcome in. Welcome in. Hello, Raiders. Welcome. How are you doing, you guys? Make sure you are following the lovely Pixel Cumhaill. They are so cozy, so tingly, just peak perfect aesthetic. You can't stay long? Absolutely fine. Yes, please feel free to pop out whenever you need to. Hi, Lexi. Oh my gosh. But yes, please make sure to follow Pixel. Welcome in Raiders. I'm Falcor. We are reading Irish mythology for our monthly bonus stream, Mythology Monday, because at midnight it becomes St. Patrick's Day. Could we get a shout out for Lexi as well? Ardex, thank you for gifting us up to Pixel. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there might need to be a little bit of a break between shout outs, but yeah, you guys make sure you're also following Lexi Lou, who is such an awesome tingly streamer. Massive vibes over there as well. Yeah, Fitch. Of course, Pixel. It's so good to see you. Welcome in, you guys. It's already midnight there, so see, we are welcoming St. Patrick's in with some good Irish mythology. We literally just started the story. We're reading about the boyhood deeds of Finn MacCool. This is maybe our 4th time reading Irish mythology on stream because I have a bias. But yeah. Okay, let's jump back in, get cozy, you guys. Okay. So Nuha has which I always feel like I'm not pronouncing that well, but I like how the pronunciation guide in this book as well gives it gives sometimes 2 options for pronunciation, with both like a modern pronunciation and an old. But anyways, another -2 seconds. All right, Dilly, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Okay, now Tig had a daughter named Myrna, who was so beautiful that the sons of kings and chiefs came in great numbers to Almu to ask for her hand. Among her suitors was Cumhaill, head of Clan Baskna and leader of the Fina. He asked repeatedly that Myrna become his wife, but was always refused. Cumhaill was so determined to have Myrna, in spite of the refusals, that one day he abducted her from the fort of Almu and carried her off. That's super romantic. Wow. Tig was outraged when he heard that his daughter had been taken away by Cumhaill and went directly to see the king. He complained bitterly that one of the Fina, all of whom were bound by a solemn oath to respect women, should have abducted his daughter. He reminded Con that Cumhaill was a kinsman of his and demanded that he be forced to restore Myrna to her family. Hi, Rusty. Yeah, actually, women were allowed to turn men down. They were not sold by their families. Hell yeah. You did not hear Owen Wilson. No, I didn't say that. Oh, you mean because I said wow? Okay, fair enough. Immediately, Con dispatched his messages to Cumhaill and ordered him to send Myrna back to her father. Cumhaill sent word back to the king that he would give him anything he asked, anything at all, except the woman. When Con got this reply to his command, he gathered together from the east and the west the Leinster and Connacht chiefs and the soldiers of Clan Morna, and enlisted their help to fight Cumhaill. From Munster in the south, bands of men loyal to Cumhaill and the Clan Baskna. I think I'm saying that. Let me double check. It is not listed in here. Marched to Leinster to help him. At Knacka, called Castleknock today, the armies met and a fierce battle ensued. Cumhaill fought bravely, leading his small force against Con's bigger army. In the course of the battle, Luchit, a follower of Cumhaill, struck one of the sons of Morna in the face with his spear and blinded him in one eye. Forever after, this man was known as Gol, or Blind Macmorna. Gol was a ferocious fighter, and though he was half blind, he killed Luchit. He stripped him of his valuables and carried off his head. Then the followers of Gol Macmorna turned on the Clan Baskna and routed them. They killed before and behind them, and only a few of Cumhall's men escaped the massacre. After the Battle of Knacka, the king rewarded Gol Macmorna by putting him at the head of the Fianna in place of Cumhall's heir. Because of this, and his part in Cumhall's death, a great feud broke out between Gol's tribe, the Clan Morna, and Cumhall's tribe, the Clan Baskna, which lasted for many years. Now, when Myrna, Cumhall's wife, heard that her husband had been killed in the Battle of Knacka, and his followers scattered, she went back to Elmu to seek refuge with her father. But Tig was so angry that she had eloped with Cumhaill. He abducted her, bro. So angry she had eloped with Cumhaill that he turned her from his door. Myrna made her way to the king's fortress at Tara and asked Con for his protection, not only from Clan Morna, but from her own father, who had ordered his men to kill her. Con sent one of his servants to bring Myrna to a kinsman's house, where she would be safe. There she was received warmly by the family and remained in hiding. Not long afterwards, she gave birth to the son of Cumhaill and called him Demna. Years later, Demna grew up and was given the name Finn because he had fair hair. He went back to Elmu to call his grandfather, Tig, to account for his part in Cumhall's death. Finn gave the druid a choice: either fight him in single combat, or give him the fort at Elmu and everything in it to be his for all time. Sean, that does seem like a massive oversight. I'm gonna have to fix that. Tig, who was an old man by now, knew he could not overcome his grandson in close hand-to-hand fighting, so he thought it best to move away from Elmu and give it to Finn. This he did, and Elmu became Finn's headquarters. From then on, though Finn and the Fianna roamed the length and breadth of Ireland and made expeditions to Scotland and to the islands, the fort on the Hill of Allen became his principal residence, and he always returned happily to the shining white dune that Nuaha had built. Now, when he was a baby, Demna had no home where he could be safe. Gol Macmorna, having killed Cumhaill and been made captain of the Fianna, was determined to kill Cumhall's son as well. He was afraid that one day, when the boy was grown up, he would claim his father's position at the head of the Fianna. Myrna knew that her son was in danger while he was with her, and though she was sad to part with her child, she handed the boy over to two of her trusted women attendants who had been trained to survive in the wilderness and were skilled trackers. Then she escaped southwards and from the territory controlled by Clan Morna and married a king who lived there. Hi, Silent Storm. We are listening to the boyhood deeds of Finn MacCool. As soon as Myrna's servant women were given the baby, they took him away and hid with him in the woods and valleys of Sleeve Bloom. There they guarded him closely and reared him and cared for him as if he was their own child. Hi, Farrell. Hello. 6 years after she had parted with him, Myrna came secretly to visit Demna in his forest hideout. She wanted to see her son again and make sure he was hidden from his enemies and well cared for by his friends. She moved stealthily from the remote territory where she lived till she came to Sleeve Bloom. The hunting bothy her son lived in was made of wattle and mud and was roofed with branches so that it was almost invisible in the depths of the wood. But Myrna found it and went in. The two women recognized her and welcomed her joyfully. They led her into the room where her fair-haired son lay asleep. She lifted him up and, holding him close, hugged him and talked to him. Then, rocking him in her arms, she sang him a lullaby until he went back to sleep. She thanked the faithful women for the love and protection they were giving her child and told them to look after him till he was able to fend for himself. Then she stole away, slipping from wood to wilderness till she reached the safety of her own territory. Oh, good fellow, I'm so sorry for worrying you like that. It was scary, to be honest. I didn't really know what was happening, and I'm really sorry for alarming you like that. I still don't totally know what was happening. My best guess is maybe a migraine, like a really fast-hitting, intense migraine. Last time you were here, we were reading Robin Hood. Well, welcome back. You joined after the AFK break? Well, it's so good to see you again. I'm glad you've come back to hang out. You get them a lot, Parisia? Oh, man. I hope that this isn't the start of me getting them. Okay, Fire Tag. Have a good night. It's good to see you. As Demna grew up, his guardians taught him about the changing seasons and life in the woods and hills around him. He was hardy in winter and carefree in summer. He became a skillful tracker and hunter. He could outstrip the hare and bring down a stag on his own without the help of a deer hound, and he could make a wild duck drop from the sky with one stone from a sling. He was still a young child when he brought home to his fosterers the first food he had caught. He had seen a flock of wild duck fly low over a lake. As they passed above his head, he slung a stone at them and sheared the wing feathers off one of the birds so that it fell to the ground, stunned. As he became more adventurous, Demna went further and further afield in spite of his guardian's warnings. The fair-haired forest boy whom they glimpsed through the trees began to be talked about by the huntsmen of the Fina. Gol MacMorna heard these rumors and suspected that the child might be the son of Cumhaill. He sent his trackers to Sleeve Bloom to find his secret camp and flush him out and kill him. Getting wind of Gol's plans, the women sent Demna away from Sleeve Bloom in the care of 3 wandering smiths, with whom he traveled for a while. But the men kept him half-starved, and his hair fell out for want of proper food. for a while then, he was known as Demna the Bold. Oh, Silent Storm, I'm glad you enjoy it. Weather does it? Interesting. Okay, Lexi. One night, as the Smiths were asleep, a robber came upon them. He killed the 3 men, robbed them, and captured the boy. Then he took him south to work in his own house. But the women trackers who had reared Demna heard about his kidnap and came after their ward and found him a prisoner in the bandit's house. They forced the man to hand over the boy, and the 3 of them made their way back to Sleeve Bloom. It's a tragedy that these women aren't given names. They sound badass. They're just like living in the forest. They're like trackers. They're like, yeah, let's just go like get this boy back from this bandit that kidnapped him. They sound awesome. Sometime later, when Demna was on his wanderings, he came out of the forest on the green of a large fort. There were boys playing hurley on the green, and Demna joined in the game. He was the fastest player among them, so the next day, when he returned, he played alone against a quarter of them and won. Then a third of them measured themselves against him, but Demna still beat them. Finally, they were all ranged against him, but the newcomer took the ball from them all and won the game. "What is your name?" the boys asked him. "Demna," he said, and turned away and disappeared into the forest. And the boys told the chieftain who owned the fort about the stranger who had beaten them all single-handed. "Surely, between the lot of you, you should be able to beat one boy," the man exclaimed. "Did he tell you his name?" "He said his name was Demna." "What does this champion look like?" the chieftain asked. "He's tall and well built, and his hair is very fair." "And then we'll give him the nickname Finn because of that white hair," said the chief. And from that day on, Finn, which means fair-haired, became Demna's name. The chieftain's son incited his companions to turn against Finn. So, when he appeared the next day to join the game, they flung their hurley sticks at him. Finn grabbed a hurley stick from the ground and made a run at the boys, knocking 7 of them to the ground and scattering the rest. Then he escaped to the shelter of the forest and back to the bothy where he lived. About a week after this, as he was going for a swim in a mountain lake, he heard shouting and yelling from the water. Finn ran to the loch shore and saw the boys from the fort swimming and playing in the water. They challenged Finn to come in and wrestle in the water with them. They wanted to drown him, and as soon as he waded in, the youths all grabbed him and held him under the water. Well, Finn broke free and held 7 of them under the water, and then he escaped to Sleeve Bloom. The boys hurried back to the fort to tell this latest story about Finn to the household, and the story spread like wildfire. The 2 women warriors who had guarded Demna so faithfully knew they could keep him safe no longer now that tales of his exploits were on everyone's lips. "You must leave us now, son. The MacMorna scouts are on your track, and if they find you, they will kill you," they told him. So, sadly, Finn said goodbye to his brave friends and headed south out of the dangerous terrain of Sleeve Bloom. He made his way carefully, slipping from wood to wood down through the country until he reached Loch Lean in Kerry. He made his way to the stronghold of the King of Bantry and joined his band of fighters and trackers, but he told no one his name or lineage. Before long, it was clear to all that the newcomer had no equal as a hunter. The king observed the young man closely for a while and decided to catch him off guard and trick him into betraying his identity. "I would have sworn that you were the son of Cumhaill," he said, "because you are so like him. Except that I know he left only one son, and he is a soldier in Scotland at the moment." Finn made no reply, but shortly after that he left the service of the King of Bantry and became a soldier with a neighboring king. This king noticed the youth's skill at chess and challenged him to a game. Finn won 7 games in a row, making his own moves and advising the king on the moves he should make as well. "Who are you?" the king demanded. "I am the son of a poor farmer from Tara," replied Finn. "No, you're not," the king said. "You're the son of Cumhaill. You are called Finn Mac Cumhaill because you were born to Myrna after your father was killed at Connacha. Gol Macmorna is out to kill you. Leave my place at once. I can't protect you against Macmorna's men, and I don't want you killed under my roof." Now that the news of his parentage was out, Finn became a fugitive once more. He made his way east to another chief who was loyal to Clan Baskna and would shelter and protect him. The blacksmith of this tribe was called Loken. Let me double check that. Loken. Yeah. Jester, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Hello, hello. Hi, Perusia. The blacksmith of this tribe was called Loken, and he had a beautiful daughter. As soon as the girl saw Finn, she fell in love with him. Her father was so taken by the young man that he consented to their union, even though he knew nothing about the new arrival, neither who he was nor where he came from. He made 2 sharp spears for Finn as a gift, so that he could protect himself from a fierce wild boar that was terrorizing that part of Munster. As luck would have it, one day when Finn was out alone, he was passing through a narrow gap in the mountain when the huge beast came crashing down the mountainside and charged at him. Finn took one of his newly forged spears and thrust it through the boar's body and killed it. Then he brought the pig's head back to Loken as a bridal gift for his daughter, and to this day, that mountain is called Slivemuk, the mountain of the pig. Oh, Jester, thank you. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. We read here, yeah. 3 or 4 times a week you will find, I also do traditional triggers, but reading is a part of almost every stream. Welcome. Okay. After he had stayed a while with Loken and his daughter, what's her name, man? Finn set off again, this time to find his uncle. Crivel. Oh, that's a rough name. Tiab. Tiab, thank you for the resub. Thank you. Oh my goodness. How are you doing, Tiab? Thank you so much. Aw, Silent Storm. You're so sweet. If you guys are looking for more reading content, I also, not right now, but usually when I'm reading, I'm also multi-streaming on YouTube, and I haven't been doing that for very long, but I'm starting to build up a collection of playlists of books that we've read. Some have been edited, so all this kind of chit-chat is out and it's just the book, and some of them still have all the other chit-chat in it. But if you're, wanting to listen to some other stories, in the meantime, you'll find some over there in the first of those links. Oh, thank you, Parisia. I like having fun with makeup. Your power came back on. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Alright. After he had stayed a while with Lochan and his daughter, Finn set off again, this time to find his uncle, Cumhaill, son of Trenmor. Cumhaill had fought by Cool's side at the Battle of Cnukka, but had managed to escape the slaughter that followed his brother's death, and had fled westward to a wild and desolate part of Connacht. There, with the last remnants of Cool's followers, he had taken refuge in a remote wood. The younger men looked after their old leader and hunted for food for him. As Finn was on his way westwards to find his uncle, he heard loud keening and lamenting. He started off in the direction of the cries and saw a woman wailing and swaying with grief. Her face was smeared with blood, and tears of blood streamed from her eyes. "You are covered in blood. What has turned your tears to blood?" Finn cried out. "I have good cause to cry tears of blood," the woman said bitterly. "My only son was ambushed and killed a short while ago by a tall, terrible warrior." Well, Finn went quickly in pursuit of the warrior. He soon overtook him and challenged him to a fight. He overpowered the tall soldier and killed him with his spear. A strange-looking pouch made of delicate hide was lying among the dead warrior's belongings, and Finn took it with him and went on into Connacht until he found his uncle. Cumhaill was overjoyed when his nephew arrived at his bothy. Moreover, he recognized the strange bag that Finn carried. "How did you come by this?" he asked in astonishment. "This was stolen from Cool by a cowardly warrior called the Grey of Luachra." Let me double check that pronunciation. Well, they don't have that one listed. We trusted him. He was the treasurer of the Fina, but at the Battle of Cnukka, it was the Grey of Luachra who dealt your father the first blow, and Gol MacMona who finished the work. Then the Grey of Luachra slipped away, taking his treasure bag with him. How did you get it back? Finn told his uncle about the wailing woman he had met, and how he had killed the tall man who had slain her son. "Oh, that was the Grey of Luachra." It's probably supposed to be aspirated, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. "That was the Grey of Luachra you killed," the old man said, "and this bag which you have recovered for Clan Baskna is the chief treasure of the Fina." Then Cumhaill told Finn the story of the magic treasure bag made from the skin of a crane. "This crane bag belonged to Manannán MacLear of the Tuatha De Danann. A beautiful, gentle-eyed girl called Aoife fell in love with Manannán's son, Ilbrach, and he loved her in return. But another woman loved Ilbrach too, and was fiercely jealous of Aoife." Oh yeah, that's it's obviously it's a magical book, yeah. "One day she lured Aoife into the water, and then she changed the gentle girl into a crane and drove her away from Manannán's island to wander from loch to loch for 200 years. When Aoife died, Manannán took her skin and made a treasure bag of it." It's a normal thing to do. "And he put into it some of the magic hoard of the Tuatha De Danann. He put into it his own knife and magic shirt, the anvil, a whole fucking anvil. This is like a bag of holding. The anvil and leather apron that Gwivna the smith had owned. I think that pronunciation is right, isn't it? Gwivna? Gwivna is one accepted pronunciation. It's spelled like Goibniu. Oh, Irish. That Gwivna the smith had owned the King of Scotland's shears and the King of Norway's horned helmet, as well as a belt made of a strip of oilskin. No, a strip of whaleskin. When the sea is at full tide, you can see the treasures in the bag. When the tide turns and ebbs away, the crane bag seems empty. By strange turns it came into your father's possession, and it stayed with the Fina until the grey of Luacra stole it away. It is a good omen, Finn, that it has come back to us again. It means that our tribe, Clan Baskna, will become leaders of the Fina once more. Finn stayed with his uncle and listened closely to his stories about Cumhaill and the Fina. He listened proudly as Cumhaill told of their bravery in battle, their skill in the hunt, and their mastery of the art of poetry. Fired by these tales, he determined to overthrow Gol MacMona and become the leader of the Fina, as his father had once been. But he knew he would not be safe until he could gather around him a band of men strong enough to challenge Gol for the captaincy. And he knew that he would not be considered worthy to take command of the elite band of men until he was as good a poet as he was a warrior and hunter. Yup. I love it. Muse, I have not seen that. No, I haven't. Oh yeah. I mean, the whole, like, I know there's that, like, very cliche, like, pen is mightier than the sword, but literally, like, at this time, the poet had the most power. Because if there are all these stories of, like, these big warriors and, like, oh, I'll kill you, I'll do all these, like, crazy feats of epic proportion. And then a poet's like, if you don't back down, I'm gonna compose a satirical poem that shames you and your family for, like, 9 times 9 generations. And they're all like, all right, fine, you win. Artax, thank you for the 100 biddies. Hi, Phoenix. Oh shit, I didn't take that down. Oops. Oopsie. I had a headache last night, I'm sorry. Okay. Alright. So he left Cribble and headed eastwards towards Leinster, to the place where there lived a poet and teacher called Finnegas. Now, Finnegas had spent 7 years camping near a pool on the River Boyne. The red speckled salmon of knowledge lived in this pool, and it had been prophesied that whoever ate one of these fish would possess understanding of everything in the world, past, present, and future. This was because the salmon ate the berries that fell from a magic rowan tree overhanging the pool, and acquired the wisdom of the world from them. I have also heard a version where it's a hazel tree, and the hazelnuts that fall are like nuts of knowledge. So yeah, you'll find, like, this scene that we're coming into is one of the most famous scenes about Finn. And so you're going to find a few different variations of this. Fishing mini game after the prologue. Nuts of knowledge. Yeah, hazelnuts. Okay. Now, when Finn arrived at Finnegus's house, the poet had just caught one of the salmon from the well. The learned man was overjoyed that at last all knowledge would be his. He gave the fish to Finn and ordered him to cook it, but he warned him that he was utterly forbidden to taste even the smallest morsel. Finn made a fire and cooked the salmon for Finnegus, and as he lifted it off the spit, the skin of the fish seared his thumb. To ease the pain, Finn put his thumb in his mouth. Then he brought the fish to the poet. Finnegus looked at his pupil as he handed him the salmon and noticed a change in him. "Are you sure you haven't tasted any of the salmon, my lad?" he demanded. "No," said Finn, "but I burnt my thumb on the skin of the fish and put it in my mouth to soothe it." The poet let out a groan. "What is your name?" he asked the boy. "My name is Demna," he replied. "Your name is Finn," said the poet. "It was prophesied that a fair-haired man would eat the salmon of knowledge, and you are that fair-haired Finn." "Then why would you... You've waited there for 7 years. You finally catch this salmon. This strange man with fair hair walks up and you're like, I'll let him cook this fish. Like, you had a prophecy. Like, anyway. Yes, this is Mythology Monday. Yeah. So the eternal knowledge is yours now, not mine. You may as well eat the whole fish, Finn. So, Finn did. And from then on, at moments of great significance and danger, he put his thumb in his mouth. When he put his thumb in his mouth, whatever he needed to know was revealed to him. There is little copper, but it's like whoever gets the first taste gets like all of it. So. Finn stayed with Finnegus on the banks of the Boyne, learning the art of poetry. And to prove to his teacher that he had mastered that difficult art, he composed his first poem in praise of early summer, the season he loved best of all. And that's the end of that story. Yeah. Salmon sounds good. Salmon is one of my favorite foods, you guys. That sounds really good. That sounds so good. The poem's not in here. That's rude. That's rude. I wanted to read his poem. Artax, thank you for gifting a sub to Patricia. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Wait, Patricia, you also had salmon? With mushrooms? Oh my god. Yeah. Sláinte. In the Ulster cycle, the thigh of the pig was the most coveted cut. Well, I don't know if you were there. This was a while ago. We read the story of the Feast of Brickrew, who like started all that chaos and got all the champions to argue over who got the champion's cut. All right. Well, okay. The next story is Finn joins the Fina. It's not very long, so we should just read that next. And then there's a short story after that. The birth of Finn's hounds. His dogs are famous. So we've got a bunch of women in here without names, but his dogs are named characters. They're very important. Yeah. Let me just, I'm gonna admit something to you guys. I never wear lipstick. I know I wear like lip gloss or whatever. I never wear lipstick. It makes my lips feel very dry. I have to reapply. It's sparkly too. It's sparkly green. Yay. Oh shit. This, you guys were calling me Poison Ivy. This lipstick color is literally called Poison Ivy. Okay. I'm Finn as Jake. Alright, let's jump into the next story. Finn joins the Fina and becomes its captain. It is. I don't know if I can zoom in, if you can, like... It is a beautiful green color. It is sparkly, yeah. Oh, thanks, Silent Storm. Okay. Let's read. After he had proved himself a poet, Finn left Finnegas's place and set out to reclaim the leadership of the Fina from Gul Macmorna. It doesn't taste like anything. It's lipstick. Yeah. It doesn't smell like anything either. Oh, Parisia, slancha, that Artax is saying, is like the Irish way to say cheers. So, like, when you're, like, doing a cheers, instead of saying cheers, you'd say slancha, and it means health. Alright. He made his way to Tara, the great court of Conn of the 100 Battles, who was then the High King of Ireland. The Feast of Tara was in progress, and all the provincial kings and chiefs were there for the ceremonial festival. For the 6 weeks that feast lasted. 6 weeks of feasting, oh my god! Peace was maintained across the land. It was solemnly upheld at this time that no battle could be fought, no feud or quarrel pursued. Conn sat on his throne, his son Art beside him, and close by, in a place of honor, sat Gul Macmorna, because the leader of the Fina had royal prestige. As the banquet was in full swing, Finn walked into the room, uninvited, and sat down. And the king stared at the youth whom no one had ever seen before, and then sent for his ceremonial horn. He placed the horn in the young man's hand and said, "Whose son are you?" "I am Finn, son of Cumhaill, the warrior who used to be commander-in-chief of the Fina," Finn replied. "High King of Ireland, I have come to make friends with you and put myself at your service." "Lad, your father was a friend of mine and a trustworthy man." Except for when he abducted Myrna. That seems shitty. "You are welcome. Come here, join us." Then Finn swore his allegiance to Conn and was put next to Art, the king's son, in a place of honor. The feasting and entertainment continued for a while, and then the king rose and, lifting aloft his polished drinking horn, waited for silence. "Men of Ireland," he said, "tomorrow is the solemn day of Samhain, when the doors of the other world stand open, and the Tuatha Danann come out and mix with mortals. Let me double check a pronunciation here. Alien Macmiona, one of those ever young, will come to Tara as he has come for the past 9 years, and he will burn it down. He will lull us to sleep with his enchanted music, and then, when we are asleep and powerless, he will send out a blast of fire from his throat and set Tara alight. If anyone here can preserve Tara from a man of the Sidhe, I will give that person his rightful heritage, however big or small it may be. This seems like very on the nose, and like if it's their rightful heritage, shouldn't they have it anyways? I don't know. It seems like a weird prize. No one spoke, for everyone there except Finn had heard that sweet, irresistible, that's not even a word, had heard that sweet, irresistible music, and knew that no one could withstand its spell. Anyone who heard it, even those tormented with pain, fell into a deep sleep. Just got like a Jigglypuff coming out. A heritage, oh my god, Fidge. That's terrible. Yes, she is Sidhe. Also, cool, both like Finn MacCool and when talking about his father, Cool, because Mac means son of, so Finn, son of Cool, is spelt like Cumhaill. Like a hall of cum. That's how it's spelled. Just FYI. Yeah, it's a big son of. Yeah. Yeah. Mac of Anna. I don't think it works that way. Sean is wild in tonight. Yeah. Alright. Okay. Cool. Then Finn rose to his feet and addressed the king. If I save Tara, who will guarantee my heritage? He asked. The kings of the provinces of Ireland will go surety for you as well as the druids and poets, Con answered. When Finn heard this, and knew that through these guarantees his heritage would be restored to him, he undertook to save Tara. Now, one of the chiefs present at the gathering was a man called Fiacha. Who had been a trusted friend of Finn's father when Cool led the Fina, and who was still secretly loyal to Clan Baskna. Fiacha sent to Finn when no one was looking and offered to help him. If I should give you a certain spear which never misses its mark, what reward would you give me? He said to the youth. What reward are you looking for? Finn asked. To receive a third of the profits gained by your right hand, and to be one of your 3 most trusted advisors. They're yours, agreed Finn. Fiacha brought the spear to Finn, handed it to him, and whispered, The minute you hear the first note of Alien's enchanted music, strip this casing from the head of the spear and put the weapon against your forehead. The power of this weapon will keep you awake. Finn took the spear and left the assembly to go outside the ramparts of Tara to begin his watch. Before long, he heard the first notes of the tympan, and quickly he pulled the hood off the spear and held the spearhead flat against his forehead as the plaintive, hypnotic music filled Tara's halls, and one by one, those who heard it fell asleep. Alien played on till he thought everyone was in a deep sleep, and then he opened his mouth and sent out a great tongue of flame to engulf Tara. But Finn was still awake, and he held up his crimson-fringed coat in the path of the flame. The fire was directed downward by the cloak, and it scorched a great crater into the earth. From then on, that hill was called the Hill of the Fire, and the valley opposite it, the Glen of the Cloak. When Alien realized that his powers had been overcome, he fled back to his wrath on the summit of Sleefuat. Finn chased after him, and as Alien was entering the door of his underground dwelling, Finn threw Fiaca's magic spear at him and impaled him with it. Then he cut off Alien's head and brought it back with him to Tara. He fixed the head on a pole that everyone might see it when dawn broke. You see the difference of, like, Alien is like this people that became the fairies, right? Like in more modern folklore, when we talk about the fairies, like it comes from these. So like, but he was able to just like behead him, you know? It was definitely a magic spear and a magic cloak, because he has that crane bag full of like magical items. So definitely like not just anyone could kill them, but yeah, just the way that like the fairies are presented definitely changes over time. Okay. Next morning, the king led his household to the green at Tara, where Finn was waiting for them. Finn pointed to the pole and said to Con, "Look, Con, there is the head of the man who used to set fire to Tara. Here is his tympan and his flute. His music is over, and Tara is safe." Artex, thank you for the 300 biddies. "Then you must be given your reward," said the king, and called Gol MacMorna to his side. "This youth is Cumhaill, son. So it is his rightful heritage to be at the head of the Fina," he told him. "He should lead the Fina instead of you. Will you agree to surrender your position and serve under him? Or will you leave Ireland? Those are your choices." "I give you my solemn word that I will serve Finn," said Gol. Then the Fina champions rose to proclaim their new captain. This they did by striking their palms against his, and Gol MacMorna was the first man to strike the palm of Finn MacCool, son of his old enemy. Alright. And now we've got Finn's captaincy. Hi, Lulu. With Finn MacCool leading them, the Fina of Ireland came into such a heyday, of such glory, that stories were told about them for centuries afterwards. Their exploits were so famous, and the tales of their adventures so fabulous, that over the ages they grew larger than life in people's imagination, and Finn himself is remembered as a giant. It's really interesting. I was talking about the difference between like mythology and folklore, right? So we've got Finn MacCool, this giant character, but he becomes, in some stories, still called Finn, but like an actual giant. And then we've got Fingal the giant. Now, in Northern Ireland, there's this part of the coastline called the Giant's Causeway, full of these amazing rock formations. And the folklore about it is that it was made by Fingal the Giant. And Fingal is, I mean, over the centuries becomes like kind of his own character, like not as closely tied with like this Finn MacCool. But there are stories with him tied in like the folklore of East Coast Canada, that he like followed the Irish people overseas when they came over to Canada. So there's even stories of Fingal the Giant in like Canadian folklore. So just the way that stories evolve over time is so interesting. Yeah. Oh, Buddha, you sleeping again? You're sleeping. The Giant's Causeway is so cool. Oh, right. Oh, that's just that town in Wales. Alright. While Finn was their captain, he allowed only the noblest, the bravest, the swiftest, the strongest, the most honorable of men to join the Fina. Someone should screenshot Buddha and stick it in the Discord for him to see tomorrow. Under his command, they stood ready to defend the state, support the king, and protect the safety and property of the people. From November to May, the men of the Fina were billeted on the country and given a fixed salary by the king. During this time, they patrolled the coasts, looking out for invaders and pirates. They collected fines and put down riots and punished public enemies. In the summer months, they received no pay but had to provide for themselves by living off the land. They fished and hunted and sold the skins of animals for income. Any man who wanted to enlist in the elite militia was accepted only after he had agreed to certain conditions, had sworn to obey certain rules, and had proved himself in ordeals of strength, courage, and skill. Like, what, does less crime happen in the summer? What is this reasoning? There were 3 conditions. First, a man was allowed to join the Fina if his family accepted that there would be no compensation if he were wounded or killed. They had to promise that they would not avenge his death. If honor and justice required this, his comrades in arms would do it. In return, the family would suffer no reprisals for any injury or death that a man of the Fina might inflict on others. The second condition was that he must have studied the art of poetry so diligently that he could compose and appreciate poetry and be familiar with the old texts. And the third was that he should have perfect mastery of his weapons. You know what? I think we should bring this back. You know, you want to join the military or the police or the RCMP or whatever, you got to prove that you're proficient at poetry. You know? I think it would weed out a certain kind of midwit, thuggish kind of personality. You know? That would stop a bank robber in their tracks. Exactly. Alright. When these conditions had been fulfilled, the candidate took solemn vows. He swore on his honor that he would choose a wife, not for her dowry, but for herself. That he would never hurt or dishonor any woman, that he would help the poor as best he could, and that he would be courageous enough to fight, single-handed, as many as 9 enemies at one go. Lastly, he took an oath of allegiance to the commander of the Fina and swore to remain faithful to him. When he had pledged to do these things, his skill as a hunter and proficiency as a soldier were tested to the limit by his comrades in arms. First of all, they put him into a meadow, knee-deep in rushes, with a shield and hazel rod in his hand. 9 experienced soldiers of the Fina would stand a short distance away, and they would all hurl their spears at him at the same time. He would have to ward off the hail of spears using the shield and branch. If a spear as much as scratched him, he would not be admitted to the ranks of the Fina. Next, they would put him through trials of agility, speed, and endurance over difficult terrain. They would take him to a forest with his hair plaited and coiled, give him a head start the breadth of a tree trunk, and then all chase him at full speed. If he was overtaken or wounded, he had failed the test. He had to weave through the dense wood, his comrades in pursuit, and if there was a hair out of place at the end of the chase, he had failed the test. If he could not spring over a branch higher than his forehead, or duck under one lower than his shin, he had failed the test. And if he had to stoop or slow down while the chase was on, in order to take a thorn out of his foot, he was not considered worthy to join the Fina. As well as being light-footed, he had to be strong-armed. He had to hold his heavy weapons perfectly still for a long time, and if his hand shook at all, he was rejected. When a young man was capable of all these things, then, and only then, was he allowed to become one of Finn's people. The Fina were excellent huntsmen, light-footed and stealthy, agile and strong, accurate and swift. For 6 months of the year, their survival depended on these skills and disciplines. They roamed the woods in small companies, but they all observed the same rules and habits during the hunting period. They ate only 1 meal a day, and that in the evening, and they observed a set routine in the cooking and eating of the meal. The hunt started at dawn. In the early morning, a small party went ahead with the catch to a special place where there was plenty of wood and water. There they lit great fires. They collected the large flat stones that had been brought to the cooking place and put them into the fire. When the stones were heating up, the huntsmen prepared the meat and dug a deep pit. When the stones were red hot, they lined the bottom of the pit with them, and on this oven floor they would place the food they had caught. Large bundles of venison or wild boar were trussed tightly and wrapped in broad green sedge or bulrush leaves and laid on the hot stones. Over the meat joints they would place another layer of hot stones. More bundles of meat would be added, and so on until the pit was full. The meat would stew gently, and when it was tender, the layers of stones were removed, and the meal began. If they had caught a young, tender animal that morning, they would put it on a spit instead and roast it over the flames. All over Ireland, and in parts of Scotland, farmers ploughing the land sometimes turn up earth that is scorched and black, and they know that hundreds and hundreds of years ago, in that place, there was once one of the Fina's ovens. In the evening, the rest of the Fina company came to the cooking place for their evening meal, but before they could eat, they first had to wash off the sweat and dust of the hunt. To do this, they would go to another large pit filled with water. In this makeshift swimming pool, they would wash and massage their limbs until the fatigue and strain of the day fell away, and they were as fresh and active as they had been at daybreak. Hell yeah, boys' massage party in the pond. Thanks for the lurk, Lexi. When they were fully refreshed, they would dress again. And begin to eat. After the meal, they set up camp for the night. They would build bothies made out of branches, rushes, and stones, or put up skin tents. Then they would make their beds to a specified plan. They would first lay a base of brushwood and springy branches. On top of this, a layer of dry moss, and right on top, fresh rushes were spread out. Until recent times, country people called these materials the 3 beds of the Fina. Oh, Buddha, you're awake again. Did you know your cat speaks Welsh? Let me check out the pronunciation. Okay. Now, the 3 great poets of the Fina, Oisin, Cuilta, and Finn, celebrated the hills and valleys of Ireland and the life they led with their companions, roaming the country. They praised the singing of the birds in summer and the belling of the stags in winter, the excitement of the chase and the stories told around the campfires, the companionship of their friends, and the code of honor by which they lived. Years later, when Oisin was an old man, and when all the other Fina were dead, he was asked by St. Patrick what was the music that Finn and the Fina loved best to hear. Remembering those days and the sunburnt companions who were long gone, he told the holy man that the best music was the music of what happened. Now, if you remember, well, if you were there, we read the story of Oisin, and how he went to fairyland, and so hundreds of years passed by in Ireland, and the music of what happened. You meant what you said by that? Well, I'm glad to hear you stand by it. Alright, this is not a very long story. Let's read about the birth of Finn's hounds. Bran and Skjolin? Let me double check the pronunciation of that second one. Skjolin? Skjolin, yeah. Bran and Skjolin. Hi, Wedgie Time. Hello. How you doing? The birth of Finn's hounds. One day, Finn MacCool and Conan sat on the hill of Allen, watching Bran and Skjolin, Finn's favorite hounds, crisscrossing the terrain, disappearing into thickets and out again, staying close together, always. It was Finn's custom to direct the chase from a hilltop, and these 2 hounds were so close to their master, they seemed to be able to read his mind. Finn loved them as if they were his children, and when they came up to him to be stroked and petted, they looked at him with eyes that seemed human. Bran was a most distinctive animal. He was a huge staghound whose head was as high as Finn's shoulder. His legs were fawn-colored and his belly white. His sides and back were black and were speckled brown over his hindquarters. His ears were a deep crimson. There is a thing in Irish mythology that, like, fairy hounds will have red ears. I don't know if that's relevant here, but that is a motif that you see, that, like, fairy hounds have these red-tipped ears. Okay. He accompanied Finn everywhere he went, and if by chance Finn was hungry after a bad day's hunting, Bran would go into the forest and bring him back something to eat. The cry of Skjolin, Finn's other favorite hound, was so sweet that it rang out above the baying of all the other hounds when they were in full cry. Aw, Fidge. Well, thank you for hanging out. I hope you sleep well. Release the hounds. Oh, I gotta be pedantic about this one. Now, if you're saying St. Patrick's Day, obviously you can say Patrick and, not the Irish spelling of Padraig. But if you're saying St. Patty, you want to spell it with D's. Yeah. Never Patty with T's. It's always Patty with D's. The tale of Finn's good boys. Okay. They say that these dogs are cousins of yours, Conan said to Finn. How could such a strange thing come about? I'll tell you the story, said Finn. My mother, Myrna, came here once to pay me a visit, and she brought her sister Turin with her. At that time, Ulin. At that time, Ulin, of the Ulster branch of the Fina, was in love with Turin and asked my permission to marry her. Well, I allowed him to marry my aunt on 2 conditions. The first was that he would send her back here if I ordered it, and the second, that he would enlist the aid of the Fina chiefs as guarantors of his promise on that matter. Now, I made the Ulstermen agree to these conditions. For this, Ulin had a lover already, a woman of the She, daughter of Bav. No, Bav. Not Bav. Bav. Daughter of Bav. I was afraid that in her jealousy she might use her powers to destroy Turin. So before Turin left my protection, I called the Fina chiefs together. Then I took Turin's hand and placed it on Oisin's hand. He, in turn, handed her over to Quilta. Quilta gave her to Diarmid, and so on, till every Fina chief had pledged her safety. Then Turin's hand was placed in the hand of the Ulstermen. By Louis. Sorry, I lost my place. None good. I am green. None good. Thank you for the tier 3 sub. What the heck? Thank you. How are you doing? Thank you so much. That's amazing. Also, okay, Buddha, sleep well. Oh my goodness. Okay. Then Turin's hand was placed in the hand of the Ulsterman by Louis, who said these words to him. I give this woman to you on the condition that you will make it your solemn duty to restore her safely to Finn if he thinks fit to have her back. So, Turin became Ulin's wife and went back with him to Ulster. Sometime later, when Turin was expecting a child, Ulin's jealous sweetheart decided to take her revenge. She assumed the shape of one of my woman messengers and came to Turin with instructions from me to arrange a feast. Then she lured my aunt away from the house on the pretense of making secret arrangements for the feast. When they were some distance from the house, the woman of the She drew a dark druid's wand from under her cloak and struck Turin with it and changed her into a beautiful staghound, the most elegant and beautiful creature you could imagine. Then she brought the hound far away with her to the house of a chief called Fergus, who lived in Galway. Now, this chief was a byword for his lack of hospitality. He was the most unsociable being in Ireland, and he particularly hated dogs. So much so that he never allowed a hound to come near any house that he was in. He was very much surprised indeed then when Bob's daughter, still disguised as my messenger, brought the staghound to him and said, "Finn MacCool sends you his greetings and asks you to look after this hound till he arrives here in person. She is soon to give birth to a litter, so Finn wants you to take particular care not to hurt her too much. If she comes to any harm, Finn will not be pleased." "Well, I'm very surprised to hear all this," Fergus exclaimed. "Finn knows very well that I'm an unsociable man, and I particularly dislike dogs. But I won't refuse Finn's request concerning the first hound he has ever sent me." I like how this guy is just, he's very secure in the fact that he's just an unsociable person. He's like, yeah, you guys deal with it. I don't like dogs. That's fair. It's fair to not like dogs. So Fergus took the hound and the messenger went away. Now Fergus proved true to his nature. While he still had time, he decided to test the worth of my hound. He brought her to the chase one day and she ran so fast, she left the other hound standing. That day and every day for a month, she hunted down every wild animal that she saw. And by then, she was too heavy with the litter she was carrying to run fast, and so she wasn't brought out to hunt anymore. But she was such a beautiful dog and such a good hunter that even Fergus grew to love her, and from then on, hounds were welcome in his house. The staghound gave birth to 2 pups, Bran and Skjolin, the 2 you see there. Wait, so his dogs are like kind of his cousins. These aren't even Irish wolfhounds, these are Irish staghounds. And I think they're meant to be like bigger than modern Irish wolfhounds, like huge dogs. Even like the modern version, they're fucking huge. They're enormous. Okay. "And how did you come to get them?" Conan asked. "When I learned that my mother's sister was no longer living in Ulin's house, I demanded that she be brought back safely to me, as had been agreed in the marriage terms. I insisted that the men of the Fina honor the pledge they had made to guarantee her safety. Louis was the man who had handed her over to Ulin, so on him fell the job of getting her back. Louis told me that he would either bring back Turin alive, or the head of Ulin in place of her. Ulin, the Ulster chief, asked for time to find Turin and pledged that he would surrender himself if he failed to find her. His request was granted, and he hurried to the dwelling of the Sidhe, where his Dedanan sweetheart lived. She agreed to tell him where Turin was if he would agree to take her instead of Turin as his wife, and let her remain so for the rest of his life. Ulin agreed to do this. Then the woman went to Fergus's house and led the hound away. As soon as they were a little distance from the house, she restored Turin to her own natural shape and brought her to me here at Almu. She told me that Turin had been pregnant when she had turned her into a hound, and that the pups that were born to her could be restored to human shape if I wished. I asked that they be given back to me and that they be left as they had been born. Wait, you didn't give their mother a choice? Turin had no say in this? He's like, nah, I'd rather have 2 cool dogs instead of my cousins as humans. What? Not Lou. It's pronounced Louis, but it's spelled like that. Louis. Don't question it. Different from Lou. Yeah. You choose the 2. If you knew that they were supposed to be human and they could become human. Hi, Taco Cat. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Hello, hello. I asked that they be given back to me and that they be left as they had been born. So they are indeed kindred of mine, and I love them as if they were my children. Yeah. Centuries have passed since Finn Mac Cumhaill told this story to Conan, as they sat outside the fort of Almu and watched the hounds at play. But until recent times, people coming home at night near the hill of Allen had a strange story to tell. They told of seeing two stag hounds break through the thickets and lope over the slopes in the moonlight, whining and barking, and they knew that Bran and Skjolin were searching for their master, eager again for the chase. Yeah, his cousins are dogs whom he loves as children. Yeah. Alright. I'm just looking at the stories that are left. There are 3 stories left. One of them is The Birth of Asheen, Finn's son. And then there is one of the most famous stories from the Fina cycle, which is the pursuit of Diarmid and Grania. They are... Honestly, this is like... You know how I've ranted before about like, oh my god, we've got so many fucking stories about Achilles, but like none about Cuchulainn, right? This is like, we have so many fucking stories about like Romeo and Juliet, and even a few about like Tristan and Isolde. Why don't we have a story about Diarmid and Grania, you know? Anyways, is a persecuted lover's story. And then the third one is Asheen in the Land of Youth, which we've already read in the past. But yeah, the Birth of Asheen is not super long, so we'll definitely read that. You're getting sleepy, Parisia. Aww. Well, I hope you have a wonderful sleep. Thank you for hanging out. I'm feeling okay, Sean. I definitely want to read The Birth of Asheen. It's not very long. Diarmid and Grania is long, so I don't know. And it's also like Finn is in it, but it's kind of, he's not the main character in it, you know? It's makeup, Lurkmaster. I've just got green eyeshadow and lipstick on. You might call it a night. Okay. Alright. Banshee. But why don't I take like 2 minutes to stretch, and honestly I gotta pee, so why don't we do that, and then we will read The Birth of Asheen. We probably won't read Diarmid and Grania. Yeah, the TLDR there is, it's Finn MacCool is supposed to marry Grania, but she's in love with Diarmid, who's one of his sworn men. It's that kind of deal. But it's quite a long story. Like, I don't think we'll read it tonight. Anyways, I'm gonna stretch, and I'll come back, and we will read about The Birth of Asheen. Lancelot all over again, kind of. Yeah, like it's a similar kind of vibe. Only Finn and Grania are not married. I think they're just betrothed. So it's less scandalous. But still, it's like a big deal. I mean, it's not as terrible as Deirdre, the story of Deirdre, which is also a woman being promised to a man, but falling in love with someone else. We never see that story either, but to be fair, the story of Deirdre is literally Deirdre of the Sorrows. It is a fucking depressing story. Holy shit. Okay. Right, I'm gonna stretch. I'll be back in a couple minutes, you guys. Alright. Now, this might be the last story that we read tonight. Yes. Because I do still have a bit of a headache. Luckily, it hasn't turned into a migraine. But, I do want to be able to stream tomorrow as well. So just seems like a natural ending point after this story, okay? All right. So this is called The Enchanted Deer, The Birth of Oisin. Oisin, by the way, is one of my favorite Irish names. It's a boy's name. It's spelled like that. Only typically with a fada, not pushing. Accent over the second I. All right. One fine day, as the Fina were returning home after a day's hunting, a beautiful deer started up in front of them and began to run as fast as the wind towards the fort of Almu. The doe ran with such speed that she outstripped most of the hunting party. The men and their dogs fell back exhausted, and in the end, only Finn and his 2 hounds, Bran and Skjolin, were still in pursuit. As they swept along the side of a valley, the deer stopped suddenly in full flight and lay down on the smooth grass. Finn was surprised at this strange behavior. Bran and Skjolin ran ahead of him, and when Finn came close to the beautiful doe, he was even more amazed to see his 2 best hunting dogs frolicking around her. Instead of wounding and killing her, they were licking her face and neck and patting her limbs. Finn knew by this that he should not harm the animal, so he called his dogs to heel, and they set off to Almu. When he looked back, he saw that the doe was on their heels, following them home. When they reached the White Fort, Finn, his hounds, and their strange companion went in, and the deer was given safe quarters for the night. After the evening meal, Finn retired to his room. As he lay down, a lovely woman walked into his room. She was dressed in clothes of the finest material, richly ornamented. Finn stared at her in surprise and admiration, and then the woman spoke. I am the fawn that you and your hounds spared this evening and brought back safely to Almu. I am called Saiv, a druid of the Tuatha. The dark druid changed me into a deer because I refused his love. For 3 years now I have endured the hardship and danger of a wild deer's life in a part of Ireland far, far from here. In the end, one of the druid's servants took pity on me and told me that if I could get inside a Fina fortress, the druid's power over me would come to an end and I would become a woman again. All day have I run through the woods of Ireland without stopping until I came here, near to the Hill of Allen. I came into your territory, Finn, for I knew you were the leader of the Fina. I outran your hunting party until Bran and Skjolin were the only pursuers on my track, for I knew they wouldn't kill me. They recognized my true nature, which was like their own. Finn is not a demigod. No, he is a fully mortal man who has had magic bestowed on him. He ate the salmon of wisdom, which means he has, like, access to all of this knowledge, even of the future, and he has a bag of magical items, and he is just the most strong and swift and smart and pretty man ever. But oh yeah, you missed that story. I guess we read it earlier. Basically, he ate a salmon that gave him, like, knowledge of everything. But he is a fully mortal man because his exploits were so heroic. Over time, his character became like a literal giant in folklore, but the original tales of him, he's just a really, really skilled, epic dude. Yeah. Unlike Cumhaill, who is more of a demigod. Yeah. Okay. Finn fell so in love with the beautiful woman that he would not leave her side. For months he was so enchanted by her that he abandoned all his former activities and was not seen at any hunt, fight, or feast. Instead, he stayed at the side of his beloved Scythe, and he called her the Flower of Almu. The word came to Almu from Cormac MacArt that the Lachlan invaders had sailed across the cold North Sea and were in Dublin Bay. The Fianna were under oath to defend the country from invasion, so, reluctant as he was to go, Finn had to leave Almu and beautiful Scythe. Cumhaill a monster? I mean, no more than any other warrior. For 7 days, Finn was absent, driving back the Lachlan. The moment the battle was over, he hurried back to Almu. When he ran over the plain toward his fort, his mind was full of Scythe. When Almu came into view, his eyes scoured the ramparts for his first glimpse of her. He knew she would be out to welcome him home as soon as the news of his approach reached her. But there was no sign of her. Instead of his wife, his servants came out to meet him. They cheered his safe return, but their faces were sad. "Where's my beautiful Scythe?" Finn called out anxiously. No one spoke, for no one wanted to be the first to break the bad news. Oh, sorry, her name is spelled like this. And there's two pronunciations listed. One is Soyev, and one is Scythe. But that was a good guess. Yeah. Okay. "Where is my wife?" Finn asked them again, his face full of fear, and they had to tell him. "Don't blame us, Finn," they implored. "While you were fighting the fair-haired Lachlans, yourself and Bran and Skjolin appeared here outside the fort. You put the Dord Fina to your lips, and its humming music filled Almu, soothing us all. Scythe, your beautiful, gentle wife, heard the music, and she came running out of her room thinking you had returned. She flew down through the pass and out of the gates. We tried to stop her, for by then we knew that it was not you that was blowing the Dord Fina, but someone who had assumed your shape. Scythe would not listen to us. She ignored both our entreaties and our commands. I must go to welcome my husband back. I must go to meet my Finn," she called out to us. He saved me, he protected me, and I am carrying his child. We begged her to stay here, but she was so overjoyed at your safe return that none of us could stop her. She threw herself into the arms of the one who had taken on your shape. A second later, she realized her mistake. She gave a wild shriek and drew back, but the sorcerer struck her with a wand. Instantly, a beautiful, frightened doe stood in her place. She stood trembling on the plain for a moment, looking back towards Almu. Then the druid's 2 hounds circled round her, barking wildly, and chased the terror-stricken deer out of the fort. 3 or 4 times she made desperate attempts to spring back into the fort, but each time the hounds seized her by the throat and pulled her back. "Oh, Finn," they cried, seeing the grief and horror on his face. "We swear to you, we tried our best to save Saif. Before you could count 20, we had snatched our spears and swords and rushed out onto the plain to rescue her. But the plain was deserted. We could see nothing, no sign of a woman or deer, man or dog anywhere. But we could hear the beat of running feet drumming the hard plain, and the howl of dogs. These noises filled the air all around us and confused us, for each of us heard the sound coming from a different direction." Finn threw back his head in anguish when he heard this, and hammered his breast with his fists. He uttered not one word, but went alone to his quarters, and there he stayed all that day and all night, and wasn't seen until dawn broke over the Liffey plain. Were there any women in the Fina? No. Not that I am aware of. For 7 years after that, unless he was leading the Fina against the Lachlan raids, he was scouring the country, exploring the remotest corners of the land in search of his beloved Saif. For 7 more years he mourned the beautiful woman who had made him so happy though their time together had been so short. All that time his face was sad, and he was never seen to smile. Except in the heat of battle or the excitement of a chase, his spirits never lifted. When he went hunting, he left his main pack of dogs behind and took with him only Bran, Skjolin, and 3 other hounds he trusted. He wanted to be sure that Saif would be left unharmed if, by good chance, they ever found her. High Red Sea. Oh, sounds good. Sounds good. At the end of 14 years, he and his Fina companions were hunting on the side of Ben Bulbin in Sligo when they heard a huge clamor from the pack of hounds who had gone ahead of them into a narrow pass. They rushed to the place, and when they arrived there, they found Finn's 5 hounds forming a circle round a naked youth, whose long hair reached almost to his feet. Finn's hounds were fighting furiously to hold back the rest of the pack as they tried to seize him. The youth stood calmly at the center of the circle, unconcerned by the turbulent dogfight that surged around his feet. He stared curiously at the men of the Fina as they hurried to rescue him. As soon as the other dogs had been called off, Bran and Skjolin went up to the wild boy and whined at him, licking his face and limbs and jumping up on him as if he, and not Finn, was their master. Finn and his companions went up to the handsome youth and touched his head gently and hugged him to show he would not be harmed. They brought him with them to their hunting bothy and gave him food and drink. Then they gave him some clothes and cut his hair, and he began to be easy in their company and to forget his sudden wild ways. Finn, gazing at the youth, saw in his features a shadow of the lovely features of Saif. He judged his age to be about 14, the number of years since Sive had gone, and he felt confident that he was their child. When he returned to Almu, the boy came with him, and Finn loved him so much that he kept him at his side the day long. He talked to him and told him stories, and the boy learned to speak. Bran and Skjolin loved their new companion so much that they spent all their time frolicking around him, waiting to be petted. When the boy learned to talk, he told Finn everything he could remember of his previous life. Hi, Rithmant here. Oh, thank you. He had been looked after by a gentle doe, he said, who had protected him and sheltered him, and whom he loved like a mother. They lived in a wild, lonely place, ranging together through valleys, over rocky slopes, drinking from the streams, hiding in the dark woods. During the summer, he had fed on berries and fruit, and in the winter, provisions were left for him in a sheltered cave. A dark-looking man visited them from time to time. He would speak to the doe, sometimes gently and persuasively, sometimes in a loud, threatening voice. But however he addressed her, the doe shrank away from him with terrified eyes, every limb trembling with fear. The man always left in a great rage. Though the deer and the child were free to roam this mountain park, they couldn't leave it. It was surrounded by high peaks and sheer cliffs, so that there was no escape. One day, the dark druid arrived and cornered the doe. First, he spoke tenderly, coaxing her to come with him. Then he harangued her, threatening her in a loud, harsh voice. He kept up this treatment for a long time, but the doe still shrank away from him, shivering with fear. At last, the dark druid took a hazel wand and struck her with it. She was powerless then to do anything but follow him, but as she was led away, she kept looking back at the boy, bleating and calling out with heartbroken cries. The boy made desperate attempts to follow her, but he, too, was enchanted. He sobbed with fear and grief, but try as he might, he could not move a limb. He heard the deer's cries grow fainter and more desperate, and he was so overcome that he fainted and fell to the ground. When he woke up, the hilly region where the doe and he had lived so happily had gone, and though he searched for days for the high mountains and cliffs, he could not find them. He wandered alone in the new terrain until the hounds of the Fina had picked up his scent, and Finn had taken him home. When Finn heard this story, he knew for certain that the youth was his son, and the son of his beloved Sive, and gave him the name Oshin, which means little deer. So that's fucking tragic. Interesting that when Turin was turned into a dog whilst pregnant, she gave birth to puppies, but when Sive is turned into a deer whilst pregnant, she gives birth to a human boy. What is that about? What's going on, Nim? Nim. Hi. Hi, Nim. Hello. What's up? What's up, Nim? That is a bummer ending. Sorry. The bummer ending. But, I mean, the last story in that section is Oshin in the Land of Youth, and that's also a bummer ending to a story, so a lot of these stories have bummer endings. Irish mythology is not about being happy. But yeah. Now, obviously, these are just like this book. This isn't even a huge book, and this book covers, you know, the cycle of invasions, the Ulster cycle, the Finn cycle, and then also has some stories about the saints. Like, it covers a lot. So there was that bit in there where it was like, the Fina did all these exploits. Like, you can find those stories in other books of just like the exploits of Finn and the Fina. Oh gosh. Brawl, I am not knowledgeable enough in Gaelge to know what it means. Yes, I have to use a straw right now because of the lipstick, and yes, there is metallic green lipstick on it. You want to read Maka again? I think I want to look, you know how much I love Irish mythology. Who lies down with... Oh, that's what that means. Okay. Okay. It is a good story. I'm just I think first off, I'm gonna shut the gates. I think I want to do just a string of name traces for everyone who has subbed. I'm not going to be taking any redeems. I think I just want to do some name traces for people, and then wrap up, because I do still have, and luckily it did not turn into a migraine, but I've just had like a low level headache this whole time, and I do want to stream tomorrow, and hopefully we were supposed to read 3 chapters last night, and then that migraine hit me and we read like 2.5. So now we have like 3.5 chapters left that I want to finish next tomorrow. I am very glad as well, Sean. Very, very glad. Hollow World, thank you for the follow. Okay. So I'm just gonna do a string of name traces for everyone who has subbed, gifted, cheered since the beginning of stream. So we are starting with Floral Ember. Alright. Let's see. And I can really feel myself like flagging, so I'm just gonna do like a good run of them, okay? There we go. I got green on here. Okay. I think we're just gonna do this. Okay. Sorry. I am becoming tired. Okay. Floral Ember. you. Thank you. Okay. This was so freaking lovely. I am so glad that I was able to do a full stream. Like, we're coming up on 3 hours, which is kind of the minimum time that I like to hit. So that's great. So the plan is that I will be back at 8 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow, aka tonight for some of you. I mean, it's coming on midnight for me. Tuesday night. We're supposed to do on it, you guys. I'm really struggling with the whole co-working thing. I'm struggling with the co-working thing. TBD. Depending on how I'm feeling, because here's the thing, I really want to be able to finish Behind a Mask tomorrow night, because then we're gonna have to like take a break from reading it for like a week, because I'm gonna be out of town. I'll still be streaming during that time, but it's just gonna be a more limited, less aesthetic setup, and I'd rather get like the book finished tomorrow night. And if I have to like wake up earlier and sit in the chair to do co-working, there's less chance that I'll be able to like stream long enough to finish that tomorrow night. So I'm kinda, would you guys hate it if we just did an evening stream tomorrow? Right, yeah, okay. So let's plan for there to not be co-working tomorrow. Yeah, Connor, thank you for the streak. Yeah, so let's fingers crossed for that. So 8 p.m. Pacific time, and hopefully I can get things set up so we can multi-stream. I know, I'll be right with you. I'll be right with you. Yes, and thank you again to our lovely raiders, Black Dragon Tavern Gaming, Finn Mac Cumhaill, and Sophia Gnosi. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I am feeling kind of knackered from this, so I think I'm gonna be lying down. But yeah, let's find someone to raid into. Let's find someone to raid into. Yes. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Here we go. Heck yeah. Okay, we are going to be rating Foxy ASMR. She is so lovely and friendly and tingly and has only been streaming for like 40 minutes, so she'll probably be there for a decent stretch more. Yes, thank you guys so much for helping me welcome in St. Patrick's Day with some Irish mythology. If you guys are celebrating or imbibing, then do so happily and safely. Serenica, we raided Serenica last night, actually. Yeah. So have fun, everyone. Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I freaking love every chance to read Irish mythology. It is midnight, so happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Yay. Okay, I will see you guys very soon, in less than 24 hours. Sleep well. And, yeah.